Hi, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Nick, and welcome to Under the Covers with Lisa and Nick.
So we are joined by a very, very special guest this morning. Nick is actually, I'd say, a super fan of this gentleman. So he is the most iconic big wave surfer of all time. He apparently started surfing when he was 3 years old. I don't even know if I was able to stand when I was 3 years old, to be honest. I've heard that he's broken most of the bones in his body at some stage. He, on August the 17th, 2000 in Tahiti, he surfed the Millennium Wave, which is widely regarded as the heaviest wave ever surfed. Nick describes him as having balls of steel. And I heard that Nick told me this urban legend, we need to get him to clarify, that he was born in a zero gravity environment. So welcome to the show, Laird Hamilton.
Thank you. That was quite an introduction. I don't know if I can live up to that, but I'll try my best right now.
The urban legend I heard when I was young was Laird Hamilton was born in a zero gravity environment.
Well, the truth is that my mom, it was in San Francisco, and my mom was involved in a study at the University of San Francisco where they put it looked like a reverse hair dryer. You know those old ladies' hair dryers that go over the head?
Yep.
But it was actually a vacuum, and it would suck on the abdominal wall and allow the fetus to move freely. And they did that like every couple of days during the last trimester.
Oh, wow.
So they said it was supposed to have a profound effect on the fetus, but I guess it was just too expensive to implement later on because there's so many people, and then women aren't going to come in the last trimester every couple of days to get their stomach vacuumed or whatever. But it was said to just allow freedom for the fetus to move more freely inside in the womb. But we're not sure if that was good or bad.
There's a little bit of truth to that urban legend. There is. There's always a little truth somewhere.
Well, I feel like you're living proof that it worked really well. So.
The jury's still out, and it's not over yet. So, but at this point, I'm not complaining. I'll say thank you.
Well,
I think my mom did it because she couldn't afford to have it was more like she was going to have a free birthing at the hospital if she went through the thing. So it was like a way to, it was like a charity case. I'm like a charity case.
Well, you turned out really well, so.
Thank you. Don't ask my daughters; they have a different story.
Mate, I was reading recently that you rode a wave that was over 100 feet in height, but it wasn't recorded for some reason. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we're always kind of leery about saying things like making claims which seems to be pretty commonplace in this world now, and I just grew up in a way that we just you don't talk like that, but we know that we were in surf that was in excess of 100 feet, and there was no documented evidence. There's a depiction of the story in Susan Casey, the writer Susan Casey's book called The Wave. Yeah. She interviews all the guys that were in the water that day, and there was 4 of us out there. And it was one of those freak storm conditions, and just one of those, the irony of the truth is that I had been involved in, every time we were surfing at Jaws, which was the premier place where we were riding these giant waves. During that time, we were most of the time things were being filmed, and I was getting kind of just discouraged by it. I guess I should be honored. You're like, hey, you should be, honored that you're getting filmed or things are being filmed. But, it started to become not fun. It was like a work thing, our, cameramen and shooting. And, I guess the little tribes people always believe that if you take a picture, it's a piece of your soul. And so, we had that mentality a little bit after every session and the scrutiny that goes around that. And so we were wanting to have a monumental moment without any documentation, and sure, lo and behold, we got that. And that day was, that was probably some of the biggest surf I've ever definitely been in. We were in Nazare for some giant surf, but that one day in particular on Maui, that was, and I had people that are experts at kind of understanding, judgment of length and heights, and some guys that were credible. So it wasn't just something we made up in our head.
Mate, that's incredible. I got to ask the question: what compels you? So when you see these giant waves, what compels you to go? All right, I'm going to go tackle this beast and ride it. Like, what's kind of do you enjoy the fear? Is it the adrenaline? What gets you off about it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's probably a combination of both. I think I always reject the adrenaline junkie term, that title. I think that's I always feel like that's undermining. It's like a disclaimer for not the amount of energy and time and effort and skill that we put into being able to do this, and the diligence that we go about doing it. I just feel like that's a write up, but I think there's an aspect to all of it. I think it's I told somebody that day when the surf was giant, I said, if I told you that over that hill there was going to be a dinosaur, it was a huge, and all we had to do was just hike over the hill and we could go see a dinosaur, wouldn't you want to go? And they'd be like, well, of course, yeah, of course you would. And so in a way, these waves for me, they remind me of dinosaurs. They're like, they don't exist.
Yeah.
And right today, but then they exist for a moment and then they're gone forever. And they're only back again, but there's something new when they come. And so in a way that's a little bit like that. They're like rare. I mean, of course, how you feel when you finish something like that, you feel accomplished, which doesn't happen a lot, in living.
So mate, it's incredible.
That,
So I read recently that you said age is basically just a state of mind. So it doesn't matter if you're 40 or 60, it's how you are mentally. Are you still riding these ginormous waves at 56, if you don't mind me saying?
Yeah.
Are you still?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, are you still tackling these absolute monsters?
Well, like I said, February, we were in Portugal at this place called Nazare, which is now considered one of the premier big waves in the world right now. And we had an enormous day there that, was up there with one of the biggest days I've ever been in the water. But we were riding hydrofoils,
yep.
which are boards that fly kind of off the water that are a lot faster than the conventional equipment. So, to answer your question, yes, I am not, I think less with something to prove that I did when I was, 18. But what happens is I think that you go through something to prove, and then if that was the reason why you were doing it, then once you do that, then you're kind of done. And for me, it's what I do. It's who I am. And I do it for myself. And so that until that changes, I'll continue to pursue it. I do it a little differently in the sense of that we're riding different equipment. We approach it, obviously after doing it for all this time, we approach it differently, but, we still train with readiness, so to be ready. So if somebody said today, hey, it's going to be 100 feet and you got to fly somewhere over there, that we're in that mind state and that physical readiness to be able to do it. So I'm still in that frame of mind. And I think that's probably the critical element of it. I think that it's the frame of mind. I think, when people stop doing things, it's I think because they stop being emotionally prepared to do it and not physically. I think that, you can lift weights and be strong and do that for a long time. But I think the mental, especially when it comes to risk, I think that the mental preparedness and the ability to take risk, especially when you get older, you get a family, you get a whole thing. There's like, and then the fact is you've done it a bunch of times, and you've probably gotten away with it a few times that maybe you thought you shouldn't have. And so I think that's the bigger element. I think the mental preparation and preparedness is more of a challenge. But for me personally, I still have the love for it. Part of it is the elusiveness of it. It's not, it's not Evel Knievel where there's a big ramp and I can just go down there on any day and, go full speed and see how far I can fly. But yeah, I think there's a lot of factors, but it definitely brings me a sense of purpose and something that, I love the ocean. I love riding. I love the sensation of riding, like of that motion of, it's like, a bird flying, a dolphin swimming. I mean, it's one of the few places I think I find kind of solid, like a peacefulness and a solitude that takes away all this other stuff that, all this curfews and COVID and just all the things that we're getting bombarded with on land at every minute. And so, yeah. And like right now I'm going through a little bit, it's been a while. And so I'm like, okay, it's great, but I'm ready for a season to start and ready for some big waves to come.
I actually love being, go.
Sorry, Lisa, but Laird, you mentioned something about risk versus reward. So when does the reward outweigh the risk? So if you're riding these 100-foot monsters and you obviously got a family and kids, like, do you go, all right, I'm going to maybe pull it in a bit? I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to keep going because I enjoy it that much.
Well, and that's something I've thought a lot about and I got asked a lot about over the years. And, I think a critical part of that is I think it's important for my children to see me for who I am and to see what I look like after I do it, what I look like before I do it, because that's part of who I am. That's part of my essence. And so if I don't want to do it anymore, I think I shouldn't stop. I shouldn't do it because I shouldn't, they didn't ask me to come in the world and I shouldn't put that burden on them. Like, well, I used to, go out and do all these things, but now I don't because of you guys. Well, that's kind of lame and that's not so cool to me. Now, if I stop wanting to do it because I feel like, hey, I don't want to put myself in that kind of a risk because I'm a dad and this and that. Okay, but that's something different. And so, and the way I go about it, I think I'm fortunate because I'm able to do it how I want, when I want. And so I can use kind of some of my instincts to guide me and I can use my wife's intuition to guide me. And she goes, hey, something, I don't feel good about this or something. I'll be like, she does. Okay. Then I'll be cautious or I won't go today kind of thing. So we use that as our thing. And then when we're doing it, we operate, we operate kind of as best we can within our experience and our understanding. And, we do it in a way that there's I worked on a movie called Waterworld and
with Kevin Costner.
Yeah, I actually read about that yesterday.
So I was with Kevin on that. I doubled for Kevin a little bit, and Kevin Costner at the end of the film, and I got lost in sea during the filming of the thing, and I had a bunch of stuff going on. But he said to me, and he looked straight at me, he goes, "Be as safe as you can be." And then I thought, well, the way he said it was, it's be as safe as I could be, me personally, not be as safe as someone can be, because if that was the case, then I'd just sit in my couch and never move, but be as safe as I could be. So I can do things that are dangerous in a way and perceived dangerous, and I can do them safely given my understanding. And so I try to do, that's what I try to go about doing. And what I find the most interesting really ultimately is just doing things that I haven't done. I think that's the part that I'm really enthralled by, is doing things I haven't done. And so, I've done some of these things that I've done. I don't need to go back and redo them, because that's your ego. Your ego comes in, and then your ego's like, okay, well, you can do that. You should show those guys how well you can do that. Like I'm like, yeah, no, I did that. Or I don't need to. Like, that's your ego. And and it's important to kind of try to find, and you can have a battle with your ego trying to feed it or just be like, hey, what do I really, what really interests me? And doing things I haven't done, that interests me. And so I've never been on giant waves without hydrofoil, going fast, riding long. I mean, I have a bunch of kind of personal goals that are just things I haven't done.
Do you feel that you're naturally, because obviously I feel like you're someone who doesn't shy away from risk and you're not, I guess, scared of fear, but I would say that a lot of people out there are so scared to make decisions. And when I was reading your book, Life Rider, what really struck me was, and I love that you were talking about, your body and health and wellness and tying that into business, because you were talking about fear and death, and the fact that, a lot of the time when you're going out in the water, it's like life or death decisions that you're making. And I think about a lot of us, and we're sitting in a comfy office and we're scared sometimes to take a risk. And I go, how embarrassing when I really reflect, it's like, this is not a life or death decision that we're making here, yet you're doing that on the daily. So are there any tips that you can give to people who maybe aren't necessarily, I guess, naturally prone to taking risks, to help them, I guess, overcome any fear that they might have?
Well, I mean, first of all, one thing I can say is let's try to avoid regret. And so if you don't want to, look back and in your life and have regrets, then you better be prepared to take some risks. And, we have a saying, no risk, no reward. There's also another great saying that there's great honor in a failed attempt, but no honor in no attempt. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we have a tendency to overanalyze things, and I always say the imagination is greater than reality. The truth is, you can imagine, tell me how many times you haven't imagined something to be way more horrific or bad or just whatever. Your imagination always inflates it. And then after, when you go into the situation, you're like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, why do we even have that statement? Why do we even make a statement that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be? Because you always think it's going to be, because the brain is designed specifically to run the worst possible scenario. So it's to keep you from, to avoid you from really having the bad situation. So it just runs every possible scenario, the worst possible outcome. And so if you fall victim to that, then don't leave your house. Then at that point, but at that point, I would just say, then you're probably dead already. So the only thing that's going to happen next is you're just going to die, but you're already living like you're dead, because you have to, life is a risky business. I mean, just being alive there's a lot of risk being alive. You're breathing air. If you stop breathing, you die. I mean, so I think we have a tendency to falsely kind of inflate our sense of security, especially in this modern world. I mean, COVID is kind of bringing something out in people right now, because it's bringing the presence of death. Yeah. And it has a name. And it's, it's like the name of death right now is called COVID, but death is always present. Death is always here. And it's just, it's more obvious in certain situations. If you go, hey, look at that guy jumping out of that plane, or that guy jumping off that cliff, or that base jump skydiver, or giant big wave rider. I mean, those are obvious dangers, right? But walking across a sidewalk, getting in a car, driving past another car at 70 miles an hour, these are dangerous things. I mean, and people die every day from this stuff, and no one's going, wow, that was a sure dangerous drive to the market you had right then. So in a way, I think it's a more honest way to live. And I think you just, I think you need to, and that being said, don't be stupid. Like, it's not foolhardy where I'll just chuck myself off this cliff and, maybe I'll land and maybe I won't. No, I think you want to be a little more methodical, but you have to be willing to take risks. Otherwise you're going to miss every great thing there is.
In this life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you nailed it. I think COVID's definitely brought out the fear in people. My parents and my in-laws, they always say we're too old, they won't leave the house, and they've tapped out mentally. So physically they're here, but mentally it's like they're basically, and I love them to pieces, but they're basically ready to die or waiting to die. Yeah. They're only.
That's part of that.
It blows my mind. Like, why are you tapping out so early?
Yeah. Well, they're probably tired raising kids. I mean, I'm right in the middle of parenting. I'm like, your kids were sent here to tire you out so you can die. I mean, at a certain point, I'm good. Just come kill me. Like at a certain point, they just work you all day long, every day, and then I mean, they're sent here to wear you out so you can die and they can take over. I mean, that's part of it.
Wait till they start dating. Then
thanks, man. I've got a 4 and a 2-year-old, so I'm still in the early days. I've still got a lot to go.
Well, you don't even know what's coming, but
when they start dating, it's going to break my heart. Don't even talk about it.
You'll be at the door with the shot.
Every day.
And I'd love to talk about your training methods. Obviously, you're in incredible shape, and I've obviously been following you for many, many years. I'd love to know your training strategies. I'm pretty sure it's more than just lifting lead and just doing bench press. Keen to understand how you train. Is it water? Is it weights? Is it just movement? You might love to know more about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think. I mean, I think I'm not the only one, but I think you always feel like you're not in shape and you need to be in better shape.
Yeah.
Right? So I just think that's like the overriding thing that's just always hanging over you, right? You're just like, yeah, I haven't done enough, and what did I do today, and and all those scenarios. I know that variety for me is the key. I know I really like diversity, like different things. Different modalities. I have XPT, which obviously is a kind of a brand, but XPT is really kind of more like a lifestyle program that's kind of based around some of our, I would say, fitness philosophies. But when you talk about how I train, I would describe it like I go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock every night. You know what I mean? Like I sleep well. I eat well. I do heat and ice. I do breath work. I mean, what I watch is usually based on things that, that information that's helping me kind of be healthier and stuff. So almost every aspect of my lifestyle is kind of geared towards trying to be healthier. And learn more about health and I like fun. I like fun, and I know that I work harder when I'm having fun. I get there, and recently I've been a friend of mine, Stephen Kotler, who's writing. He does a lot of work on flow state. He's writing a new book called The Art of Impossible. But he talks about that monotony is the killer of motivation. Yeah. And I know that better than anyone. Like if I'm in a drudgery of a certain routine, it's just a killer. So I'm always looking for new things to kind of keep shocking the body and to keep but I like to lift. I like to do cardio. I like rowing and biking, and I use stand-up bike because the position of conventional biking is not great. But I do a bunch of pool training where we train with weights in the pool. I do isolated breath work. I do and then again a variety of stuff. Just a mixture and hybrids, and always trying to make kind of develop new exercises and new routines just to keep interested, to keep me interested and to keep challenged. So I look into but all of it with the intention for performance. Yeah. So all the time, always thinking about, okay, is this going to make me foil better? Like, am I going to perform better? Like, can I row longer and harder? Can I do these? Can I dig a ditch better? It's the thought is to perform better, right?
Can I dig a ditch better? There you go.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, can I dig a ditch? Yeah. To perform, like as an organism, is this or am I gonna look buff and am I gonna be all jacked, but I give you a shovel and you can't even dig a hole? And I'm like, well, what good are you? Like, so I'm always thinking about it that way, like what, and is it swimming? Is it running? Is it climbing? Is it, it's like all of the, and, what are you doing? And again, thinking of the organism that way, like in performance based, and given my sports of interest as well. If I was running into people, I might want a little more weight and be a little thicker, but I'm not, but waves are running into me, so I need to be durable. So there's all of that, there's all that stuff, but I really love the water. I'm a big fan of, and I'm really into thermoregulation. I like heat and ice as training, to use as training environments. So I like to do stuff like I have a couple of drills we've been doing lately where we do this like a 30-second to a minute cardio kind of a sprint, either on an assault bike or a rowing machine or something to jack your heart rate up.
I'm taking notes here, by the way. I love this stuff.
And you sit in an ice tub for a minute with your heart, maximum, like not maximum heart rate, but you're jacked up. And then you sit for a minute, then you go back on the bike, and then you go again on the rower or the bike, and then you go back on the ice, and you do that back and forth, and you just get absolutely annihilated. And so, and that's a very simple thing. It's not like a tricky thing. So I am good with a level of suffering. I think I connect suffering to benefit. I just go, you know what? There's got to be a level of suffering in it, more than an aesthetic. I don't know. I think of suffering somehow suffering, and maybe that's some kind of, maybe I should get rid of that. Maybe something.
No, that's great. Don't get rid of it. That's what makes you. That's because you can almost push through the pain, and you knew that's how you become great.
Yeah, that was you said.
Yeah,
I think you were saying in an interview that I read that it's like the secret to you staying fit is your ability to suffer. And I think that's really true, because I think of an ice bath and I just think no chance in hell, but you're going to get those rewards because you can push your body to the extreme when other people can't. So I think that's really interesting. I was actually reading that you do a lot of work with your feet, and I know that Nick does grounding, but you're talking about doing doing this exercise with the golf ball on your feet. And I love the quote that you used, because you said you're in the business of balance. And I think it goes back to what you were saying about it doesn't necessarily have to always make you look better, because obviously with what you do on standing on the board, being really connected and aware of what's happening with your feet and the sensation of being on the board and riding the waves, like you're not going to have ripped feet, for example, if you're working out your feet or spending time on your feet, but it's so crucial to what you do. So I think it's a really interesting approach.
Yeah. Well, again, it's about performance, right? So, and sometimes there's a disconnection between aesthetic and performance, right? So and there is an aesthetic value to performance. Things that perform will have an aesthetically pleasing thing, but my fitness is not based around aesthetic, even though I have the vanity to want to, like, oh yeah, okay, ripped and pecs and this and that, but I go, yeah, but you can do a bunch of bench press, get some big nice pecs, and all of a sudden you're top heavy, you lose the range of motion in your arms. Just there's like a dance between those the two, the angel and the devil. One's like, oh yeah, I gotta, you want to be buffed or whatever, and the other one's like, no, it's about performance and ultimately injury prevention, right? Protection. Like, you want to be mobile and flexible enough to take crashes and wipe out and then also the recovery, the speed of recovery, right? The speed. Injury and in recovering from injury is actually a skill. I mean, you get a skill at it. When you've been hurt enough times, you start getting good at recovering, and because the recovery will dictate when you can perform again. So if you're not good at recovering, then you could be out for a season or something. And so if you're good at recovery, then all of a sudden, you're back in the game again. And the game for me is the game of life. So, right. So back in the game is back in life functioning. And that's why, I think that's why it's important not to get complacent. I think that you can just get complacent, and then that will be the killer of everything, right? Complacency will just it'll take away your, it'll take away all the things you love.
Mate, when you get injured, what type of things do you do to recover? Do you take, is it stem cells, PRP, peptides, or anything, or just is it purely
Sure.
just?
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm not. I don't discriminate. I mean, I'm not a big fan of like synthetic, like, okay, testosterone or growth hormone and those kind of things. I'm a little leery of some of that stuff. Like if you said, hey, take your blood, spin it and inject it in the wound area, I'm like, oh, I'm all in, like, yeah. I like to try to find things in nature, like plant forms, hopefully, or, forms that are coming from nature that and peptides obviously are that's something a little that, that's kind of in the middle, and so, and some of it, you try and it doesn't really do anything. I mean, like you get a cup of coffee and you get jacked up. I mean, that's just caffeine. Like, and you do some of these other things and you're like, I don't even know if this thing's even doing anything for me. Right. So some of it's that, but I'm, one thing, okay, I'll give you something that I learned, which it's kind of like the good and the bad news, but the good news, well, the truth about healing is that the more pain you have, the better you heal. Or should I say the more pain you can endure, the faster you heal, because the pain is the mechanism that produces the IGF-1 hormone, which is the healing hormone. So, and the healing hormone is produced when you have pain. So when you suppress pain in any way, whether it's Advil or ice or whatever way you're suppressing pain, you're actually suppressing the hormone production that is the healing hormone. So, and I learned this. I had my hip. I got a hip replacement a couple of years now, and then I was able to not actually have anesthesia. I got a spinal block, and then after I was going to do ice, but then I started learning about that ice was kind of slowed IGF-1 production. So then I did STEM, and I did a bunch of intense STEM for pain control, just from fatiguing the pain, the stuff. But what I learned during that particular time, which intuitively kind of sense, but was that pain, your ability to handle pain actually is what promotes healing. And the more pain you can endure, the faster you heal, because any suppression will drag out the process. And and so that's why I call it the good and the bad news. But you heal faster that way. But I'm not. But again, eating really good, being hydrated, promoting your body's natural healing systems. I mean, that's all about that, right? It's all about that. That's the real heal. That's the real peptide. At the end of the day, is supporting your system in a way to help, whether you're doing a bunch of bone broth or for broken, that kind of healing, or something like that, right? Where you're promoting, through, I mean, I'm always looking for cool, like I like shilajit. This is, I don't know if you know what shilajit is. It's a natural occurring tar in nature that it's like if you composted for 1,000 years and at the end you end up with a tar, and it's but it's like it's the nano minerals. So it has minerals in the smallest form, which means they're the most bioavailable and most absorption. And they're Himalayas and Siberia are the two places that they naturally occur, this tar. And I've been using it for a long time, but that's an example of just one of the things that you're looking for, whether it's cordyceps or lion's mane or maitake or chaga mushrooms, or, just all of those things. I mean, that's, for me, I go, this is the way you're going to heal yourself. You're going to heal yourself with food. Yeah. And ultimately, like, I want to say superfoods, but like things that are nutrient dense, that I think that's where I believe the real healing is. It might not give you big muscles if you take a bunch of testosterone and lift weights all day, but that's not what I'm interested in.
And do you eat this tar? Is this edible, this tar?
Yeah, you mix it in hot water. You can drink it. In a tea. I mix it with chaga, but you just mix it up with hot water and it just dissolves into like it looks a little bit like it looks like black tea or something, but
Yeah,
it's
What's the craziest thing you've eaten or done for your health? Because I love talking to Nick because he's always telling me, like, he does stem cell stuff and he eats all this weird stuff and he does crazy things. I actually enjoy listening to him. Like, what crazy things are you doing now? But I'm sure that you would have done even crazier things.
No, but like She Legit is some pretty, like when you smell it, I told somebody it smells like new bandages. Like
I'm writing this down.
Like it's
Sounds delicious.
but you know what it is too. I guess it's also too. What do you do consistently? You know what I mean? Like, what does everything look like consistently? I think that's the bigger thing. You know, is like it's one thing to dabble in something for a moment, but you know, what's your consumption look like on a daily basis, on a yearly basis? Like how does that? You know, and I think that's because that's the thing that's going to support the system, right? Is, you know, and we know minerals, we know that probably the two most profound things you can do for your whole system is hydration, minerals and to be hydrated, which minerals and hydration are actually interconnected as well. Yeah. But those are like the foundation, you know, nutritional things that we're all, besides our breath, you know, besides not breathing correctly.
Mate, one last question for you, because I know you're busy, but I was reading an article recently about nose breathing and how you said that we've become a world of mouth breathers instead of nose breathers. What's the benefit of breathing through the nose compared to through the mouth? And mind you, I had a nose operation recently, I had nose surgery to fix a deviated septum, and now I can breathe, and it's an absolute game changer.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, we've always been breathing through our nose, and just recently, in the last 200 years, we're not sure why. There's a guy, Patrick McDougall, that wrote a book that we work with, and he's in Ireland, and he did a study about it. But the truth is, your sinuses emit a gas called nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, which helps your body absorb oxygen, but it's also the filtration system for the air. And so the reason why to nose breathe, especially if you want to learn how to nose breathe in your sleep, and you want to learn how to nose breathe all the time. And I say the only time you use the big hole, which I call the mouth, is when you really need volume. And that's usually when you're exerting yourself at a level so far beyond your nose volume capacity, then you have to go to the mouth. That's what the mouth is for. And first you go nose, mouth, you know, you exhale through the mouth, because the bigger part of breathing really has to do with getting rid of the bad air than it does actually getting the good air in. So it's more about that. And you know that when you're training, it's all about an exhale. But the nose is, like I said, the filtration of the air and the nitric oxide that is the vasodilator. And then it reduces volume, the overall volume of air, which allows the body to become more CO2 tolerant, right? So, and CO2 tolerance is directly connected to performance, but it's also connected to a bunch of other diseases. And so, and the alkalinity of the system, when the body, the body's not able to operate into a high acidity, then we have a bunch of health related, and again, the book, The Oxygen Advantage, that my friend Patrick wrote is a very good book, specifically on nose breathing and giving you all of the benefits. But you know, if you said to someone, you know, what's the one thing I could do to really make a difference in my overall health, I would say that nose breathing is probably the single biggest factor to implement into their. And a lot of people actually that have most cases of deviated septum actually can be resolved from nose breathing alone. That nose breathing alone, because of the nitric oxide and being a vasodilator, that over weeks of it begin to expand the nose cavity and open the whole system up. But because you got a surgery and you're open, now you're ready to roll. But nose breathing for your overall health, by far, you know, and then hydration and some other stuff like that. And, you know, I mean, people are always talking about working out, and I'm like, you're not sleeping right, you're not hydrated, you're not breathing right, and you want to talk about working out. Never mind working out. And in a way, working out's hard on you. Like the working out is a breaking down of the system, right? We're pounding the system, and you need, and what we don't do, because we're pretty good at pounding the system. Our living is pounding our system. What we don't do, and that's kind of the philosophy of XPT, and what we do a lot of, is to nurture the system, right? So we know the nice thing about heat and ice is that they're doing both those, right? They're taxation, because thermal regulation is the most energy consuming process that the body does, which means that your body takes more energy for your body to heat itself up and cool itself off than it does for it to do anything else. That's why people that live in cold climates have enormously high fat diets and no obesity. The Eskimos are eating whale blubber and they're skinny. I mean, so we know that hot and cold take that taxation on the system, and then you produce a bunch of hormones that are highly beneficial to your health. And then it's you know, those. So if you said in a degree of importance, what's the scale look like? Well, it would be like, okay, well, we know to breathe right. First of all, let's just go right to the top. Then we know we need hydration, minerals, or let's just say breathe right, sleep right, hydration, minerals, and then thermoregulation and that stuff. And then we can get into other forms of, training and working out. But those things right there, just for overall health, if you just implement, and by the way, those aren't that difficult. It's not like you go down to the gym and lift for 3 hours every, 5 days a week. I mean, this is some, breathe through your nose. Okay.
And you got to throw earthing in there. Throw earthing in there. We got to walk barefoot everywhere. I walk barefoot everywhere as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
My mouth in. I was literally breathing through my nose only. When I was listening to Laird, I'm like, don't breathe through your mouth, breathe through your nose.
Well, I think it's good because you can just be sitting at your desk and doing that. So, it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to, like you said, go somewhere crazy to do it. You can just do it at your desk, which is great. I'm just going to sneak in one more question because I don't want to end on a nose breathing question. So sorry, Nick. I just find it really interesting that, I think there's a lot of people who follow their passions, but they can't turn it into a career. Whereas you've been, I don't even want to say lucky, because it's obviously taken a lot of hard work to turn what you love into a business. And I do congratulate you on that because it's, I think it's very admirable, and I've got a lot of respect for people that do that. And I was reading that you were saying that one of the secrets to your success is having a mentor. And that's something that Nick and I both really, really believe in, because you can avoid making so many mistakes and, you can save yourself a lot of money. So how has a mentor really helped you get to mentors helped you get to where you want to go? And do you think it's really important that people find themselves a mentor?
Well, absolutely. First of all, I always have said that if you ever want to be good at something, go where the people the best at it are, and you will be good at it. Like you're just being there and seeing people do it correctly will make you better. So that's the first thing. I think that if you're interested in something and you want to be good at something, well, go where people are, go to where people are, meet, find somebody that's good at it, befriend them, or go where the people that are good at it are, and because at the end of the day, monkey see, monkey do, right? So we as a species operate very well at having an example. And, I always say it's difficult to be the monkey that doesn't see and does, and that has its whole another set of complications. But when you want to do something, and that includes how you want to be. Now, if you want to be a certain kind of person, then go or look to people that are good at being the kind of person that you want to be. Like, if you want to be a certain kind of father, if you want to be a certain kind of mother, if you want to be a certain kind of business person, you want to be a certain athlete, find somebody who represents what you admire and watch and look at it. And, the truth is, some of it may prove itself to be, how not to be than how to be, but that will still be important because sometimes it's more important to know what you don't want to do than it is to know what you want to do. So I think that's a big, I think that's, and that's one of the gifts that we have that we have books and we have history and we have people to admire that are doing things. I mean, not as many as we should, or you know, it seems as of lately, but you know, that's what we have. We're unique in that way, you know, that we have the ability to really kind of look and we have these examples, living or not living, but we have evidence of it. And so, you know, absolutely. And then you just have to put your feet in the water. So there's always that last little caveat. Have your mentor, look up to him, be like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. I won't do that. And then you got to go do it. Then that's the last piece, you know.
So it's the hardest.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Well, as you know from the start of this call, Nick's a massive fan of yours. So I thought he can barely swim, to be honest, but he's a keen boogie boarder. But I thought, like, what better way for him to get to know you a bit better than for him to learn how to stand up on a surfboard? Because you haven't surfed.
More for Lisa here, let's be honest.
Have you surfed before, Nick?
A couple of times.
Okay, well, like, you can learn from the best. So if you don't mind, we'd love to get your techniques on how to stand up on a board, because I remember learning how to surf and you got to practice on the land before you get out on the water. But I'd love it if you could demonstrate to us, and we'll go along with you as well, how to jump up on a board. The Laird Hamilton way.
Well, first of all, I think we all do it the same. But, you know, the one thing you have to talk about when you talk about learning how to surf is that standing up is the reward for all of the work.
Oh, I know.
The work comes in the paddling, but the work comes in the paddling. Like the paddling, the effort it takes to get yourself out. If you boogie board or to get yourself out there and to get yourself on a wave, and the timing and understanding. You know, it's a little bit like, you know how they're called painters, but actually they should be called taping and caulkers. Like they have to caulk and tape to be able to paint. Well, surfing should be called paddling and wave judgment, you know, because the reward of getting to your feet, but it's just like a burpee, right? I mean, in a way, it's a burpee. You're on your stomach, you're laying down.
We're ready to learn. Okay, you got to get your camera ready, Nick. You've got to do this.
Oh,
come on.
Yeah, but you got to get on your stomach. So you get on your stomach. Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
Yeah, you're on your stomach, and then you spring.
Nick, you've got to move your camera. We can't even see you.
Yeah, so you're laying flat. You're laying flat. Then you put your hand by your side. And you're gonna press up and bring your feet underneath, up to your hands. For 1 foot. So 1 foot will come all the way to where your hands are. But in one motion, yeah. That's right there. That was it. That was it. That was it. That was your first dry land surf lesson.
I suddenly feel very old, Laird.
Huh?
I suddenly feel very old. I feel like I pulled about 10 muscles then. Thank you.
If you were in a bikini, it wouldn't have been so bad. Then you would.
The leather jacket suits her.
Yeah, when you're in a jacket and some pants, it makes it a little difficult.
I actually feel inspired to go out to the ocean again.
Yeah, we just need to be warm. How is it where you guys are right now? Is it warm?
Fresh.
Freezing.
Fresh.
Yeah, fresh.
Yeah,
fresh. I like that. Fresh, not freezing. Fresh. Yeah.
It's a combination of fresh and freezing.
Well, you got to go to Hawaii. That's why you need some tropics to get the, you know.
We actually, we can't leave the country until probably end of 2021.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's complete lockdown here. So no international travel, no interstate travel, complete lockdown.
So no one can come or go out of there right now?
No, no one can come in, no one can leave. It's insane.
That's heavy, yeah.
It's heavy.
I didn't realize that you guys were so clamped right now.
Especially in Melbourne. So you can't even travel interstate, and it's locked down until 2021.
But the whole country's like that too right now?
It is, but Melbourne's probably the worst. So we're in level 4 restrictions.
Yeah.
So there's protests in the streets.
We won't go there.
No. There's protests at the moment. It's getting hairy.
Now, where's the closest surf spot for you? Where do you?
Bells Beach.
Oh yeah, Bells. I've been there.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
Well,
a few years, but I was Bells. Yeah. I was
we'll
in Bells.
definitely have to either you come out and hopefully see us, or we'll come out and see you, and we'll get Nick on a board.
That sounds like a fair trade. That sounds like a fair trade.
Yeah. Excellent.
Hey,
Thank you so much for your time, Laird. It was an
Anytime.
absolute pleasure.
been an honor.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you guys. And be focused on what's important, which right now we're just training in the family, you know, being healthy and spending time with friends and family. That's the